Welcome to lesson number 3, where we're going to make your $1 million ideas actionable for your team so that they can turn it into reality. And to set this up properly, I want to share a story with you about a time when I was in Sevilla. The picture you can see now is from Sevilla, Spain, one of my favorite places. And I went to go have dinner with a friend of mine. So we're walking down this little street that you can see here on the right, and we're on our way to the restaurant district. It's over here, and she's looking for a restaurant. And after 30 minutes, I get kind of sick of looking for restaurants. And I'm like, hey, do you want my help? Maybe I can help you figure this out. And she's like, yeah, sure. Okay, so I go out and I find a restaurant. Wow, look at this. This is great. It's one of those like Italian super nice places. And she's like, it needs to be vegan. I'm like, okay, I'll find a vegan place. No worries. Off I go. I come back a few minutes later. I find a vegan place. Hey, check this out. It's vegan. And she's like, yeah, but it also needs to be like a good ambiance. Okay, yeah, whatever. A little bit annoying, but I'll move on. I come back a few minutes later. I get vegan. I get a good ambiance. I'm like, dude, check this out. She looks at me like, yeah, well, it's a little bit pricey, isn't it? Like, if I had longer hair on the sides, I would have pulled them out. Maybe that's why they're so short, actually. So I go on another mission, and I tell her it's vegan, good ambiance, and it needs to be cheap. And I find that. And I come back, hey, I found this place. It's great. It's awesome. And then she's like, well, I don't really like the noise from the next door. And that's when I'm like, I'm done. Thank you so much, but I think either we do this or it's back to you again. How many of you guys have been in a situation like that? You go to find dinner and it's never the right thing. You spend hours and hours and hours doing it. And you have to, like, whatever you present, it's never the right thing. The reason why I'm telling this story is because that's how many of us course creators are leading our teams. We are setting someone up for failure. We're telling someone to create something for us, and then they come back and we realize, oh, that's not really what I want. So we add that little thing and then we send them off again. And then they come back with, you know what? It should actually be structured like this. So our VAs or our teams, they can't win. Just an example that I couldn't win finding a restaurant. But that's a thing we're going to change today to make sure that once you set them off on their little quest to solve your problems, they have all the tools they need. They have all the information. And you don't have to redo it. You don't have to deal with those frustrating misunderstandings again. And to be able to do that, we need 5 things. And number 1, we have already done. We have already prioritized it, as you can see here. That's what we did before. We figured out what needs to be done and who needs to do it. The thing we're going to do now is we're going to go through how to make these thoughts and ideas into something that people can go out there and take action on. Like, they can clearly understand what it is that you want, so they can deliver the entire package to you instead of just something that's almost good enough. Once that is done, you're going to have to communicate it so they understand, care, and take ownership. This is really important because this will give them the opportunity to kind of make good decisions for you instead of you having to be there all the time for them. And then, of course, we're going to check in on them to ensure that they're doing the right things the right way, because we don't want them to just do things. We want them to do it a specific way. And that specific way is that the unique way that you want it to be done. So we want to have a way of checking in on them. And the last part is to figure out how the heck do we get ROI on our team fast. Like, everything they screw up, we want to be able to implement that and change that so that they can improve and do a better work for us. Our focus now during this mini course will be these 2 steps up here. That's what we're going to focus on. We're going to dive deep. And the 3 things here are things that I'll show you later on how you can kind of figure that out and how you can either work with me or do it on your own to make that work. But our focus now is going to be on these 2 upper parts. So now that we have a list of ideas that someone else should do, let's make them actionable. This lesson number 3, it will be perfect for you guys who struggle of often having to redo tasks. You send something out, they come back, and it's not just really exactly what you want. Maybe it's like a Canva carousel post or something like that, and it's a little bit off, or it's the wrong colors, or it's like they bolded the wrong sentences, so it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And you have a team that doesn't seem to kind of get it. They don't really understand what it is that you want. They most often have done the things that you want. They produced the carousel, but it didn't do it in a way that kind of makes sense. It's just like unusable to you. Or your team needs unnecessarily much support from you, which means you have to be part of every stage of the process, meaning that, it's just better if I do it myself. This part will also solve the issue of having a team that rarely comes with useful solutions. Maybe they give you a suggestion on how something should be done, but you can instantly say like, that's not going to work. So if you're struggling with that, this lesson will hopefully clear that out for you. So here's a question for you that I want you to kind of jot down or think about a little bit, and that is, how much time are you spending each week on re-explaining tasks? Like, you told them what to do, or you send them the Loom video, and then they come back to you asking for more information, more questions, or they didn't really get it the first time. Once you have your answer, I would love for you to comment below so I can kind of understand how much time you're spending on this, and I can understand how important this is for you. Before we go into the next exercise, I want to talk a little bit about communication filters in the online world. So I meet a lot of people who say they can't trust their VAs, they can't trust their teams, and they would just feel way better if they just had someone next to them that they could talk to. And a big part of that is that we don't have that. We can't see the body filter. We can't see their body language. You can't really understand them in a deeper sense than just their text. So there are a few ways to deal with this in the online world. One is the one we're going to choose now, and that is to actually make your tasks as low risk as possible so you don't have to trust people. The other way is to actually build a lot of trust with your team. And that takes longer time and it's way more difficult. But I choose the opposite approach. So instead of giving them high risk tasks and hoping that they don't misuse it, I make sure the task is formulated in such a way that it is low risk if they screw it up. You remember the exercise we did before, where we kind of figure out what are the consequences if they screw it up. This is something you will learn inside this course as well, how we make those low risk. And if you need ideas of low risk tasks for an online course creator, you could message me, or you see down below, you'll find a link to 151 low risk tasks that could be really useful for you guys who are afraid of delegating because you're afraid they're going to wreck something. So here's what you're going to get from this lesson, or actually you won't get anything. You're going to do the work. I'm just going to move you through the process here. You're going to know how to make your visions or your ideas or those tasks we talked about before actionable for your team. And when I say actionable, it is that they can listen to your video or see your video or read that document and say, I got it. I can go away with this information and I can work autonomously. And after this lesson, you will have a task order ready to send to your team so you can get those 5 hours of time back. That's the big part here. And to give you an example of how extremely simple this can be to get your time back, I want to give you an example from what we're doing right now. So when I created this slide that you're watching, it looked like this. Like, it's just pretty crappy, right? I made a really rough outline. Okay, here's the text I want. Here's the images. It's just like, it looked like crap, right? But the information was in there. And then I gave my VA, Fiona, which is super good. I just told her this. This is the message. This is literally the message I sent her. And then I attached the next document. This is my critical career delegation template, which I use every time I delegate something. This basically becomes the contract between you and who's ever helping you. And I don't mean contract as in a formal way. I mean contract in a way where people know what to expect. Like, you have communicated so clearly that they understand, care, and want to solve the task. That's a biggie. So that message you saw before and this text you see here, that is literally everything I sent her to be able to achieve this Google slide document that you're watching right now. Isn't that pretty cool? Like, this little text and that, and I just let her run with it. I made a few alterations, like a few comments. I think we're up to like 4 now or something. That's it. So after this training, this is exactly what you will have, and this is exactly what you will send to your VAs. There are a few things inside of this that we need to look at, which makes this so incredibly powerful. And it's what you can see here is the purpose, it's the end state, and it's the rules. These things are vital. You need to communicate these things every time you give someone a task. And this is what we're going to look into today. And the results after this short message, well, it's what you're looking at. So it went to this. It's meant to this like super beautiful, really cool thing that would have taken me so many hours. Like, I have 15 slides that are prepared and I gave all of them to her and she fixed it. Super beautiful. It took me maybe 30 minutes to adjust a few things with the results that came back. That's it. And it was better than I could have done it. And this works because of three things. And those are the things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the rules, like what does, you could see this as the box. Like, what does the box look like? What are their area of responsibility? And then we have the purpose. That is, why is this important? How does this task fit into the overarching goals? You remember that exercise we did in previous lesson where we figured out the project goal and the higher goal? This is how we kind of attach these things, and we present it to the VA or the team so that they can do it. Because it's really important that they understand why we need to do this. And then the last part is the end state. What the heck will they have produced? What are the results? What's the outcome? What will they deliver to you? And this is the thing that explains the difference between the world as it is right now, before the task has been completed, and the world afterward, when the task has been completed.